Hello world, welcome to the 46th Climate Change Emergency Awareness Rally in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, USA. Downtown Gettysburg at the square. As you can see, nothing has changed. Next week's rally will be on November 1st, either here in Gettysburg at 11 o'clock, I think 11 o'clock, or down in Washington, D.C. We're talking about going down to hang out with Jane Fonda and everyone else and watch her get arrested, and hopefully we won't get arrested, but you never know. I don't think the process here in America is as easy as it is over in England. I wish it was, because the right to protest is guaranteed in the Constitution, the right to peaceably assemble. So anyways, this is really difficult coming out here week after week and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's me by myself today. Wife is not feeling too well, so she's giving a pass. But it's 41 degrees out, and the trucks are whizzing by, and I'll stop as they go by. So anyways, you know, you really have to feel this in your heart as to what's going on with the climate change. Right now it's winter time, so people think everything's okay, but it's not. The CO2 level, which everyone should know, is around 410 parts per million. 280 parts per million is the safe zone for the CO2 level as far as humans go. And then you don't experience a whole lot of climate change. But right now we're in a life and death struggle, and people don't realize it. America is very well insulated right now. We get our food from elsewhere. If you look at your packages on your, you know, when you go to the grocery store, it's from Israel or somewhere else, or Chile, fish, Norway, different places, the Midwest. You know, your groceries basically don't come from 20 miles away. And that is the very precarious situation we're in, because eventually with the climate change, and I guarantee you this is going to happen, is that you're going to have a system collapse. And, you know, humans are very clever, and they can survive heat and cold until the electric grid goes down. Then you got a whole problem. But the main problem is that it's food insecurity. And that's the problem for the whole world. You know, humans live in extreme temperatures, high and low, but they have food. If you don't have food, you die. And that's just the basic idea behind it all. And we rely on such a transportation system. We rely on a heavy transportation system to bring our food into us, and we think this is how it'll always continue and how it always has been. And it isn't that way. There weren't always iPhones. There weren't always cars. There weren't always, you know, nice little Nike shoes to wear on your feet. So if you're lucky, you had one pair of shoes. My grandparents in the census back in the 1920s, I think it was, or 30s, it might have been my great-grandparents, they had listed in the census that they had a telephone and a radio. And that was a big deal. You know, there weren't televisions and all that stuff. So essentially, you know, you're only a few steps away from going back to those kind of conditions, or much worse. So, you know, it's well within everyone's interest to get out and start doing something. If you're going to rely on an election to cure your problems, you're sadly mistaken. These people that have gotten you into this problem are the very type and same people that are going to lead you down the road to hell. Okay? They have no push. If they stand up front at a rally and say we're in an existential crisis, they aren't getting it, because they go back to their little Capitol building as representatives and senators, and they do nothing. There's no legislation being passed. There's no legislation being proposed. We're in a life and death struggle, and if you're in such a struggle and they really believe that, they would be doing everything they could, every minute they could, to be saving the lives of every American and every person on earth. So they are not serious about it. And if you believe that an election a year and a half from now is going to save your ass, you're sadly mistaken. And if you think the president coming in is going to change a whole lot, you're sadly mistaken. It's going to require a catastrophic situation, such as a city being blown down, or some sort of other catastrophe, giant fires or whatever, burning down a whole mega city. This is not happening. People, there's no push. And why? Because you are sitting there watching me and not out here with me. And you're not out there protesting. You're not making life uncomfortable for your local politicians, your state politicians, and your federal politicians. Look them in the eye when you see them. Tell them, what are you going to do about this? even if you're local, there are things that can be done. So, you can green up your community, you can make people aware, you can look like a lunatic, and if you're not so invested in getting reelected, you can do a hell of a job. It's the people that become career politicians that become the problem, because the corruption starts in. Then they start, the different corporations and businesses get in your back pocket. It becomes the old boy network and nothing gets done. So these are the numbers you need to know. Okay, we're at 410 parts per million CO2. Not good. 280 is the limit, and doesn't matter what the IPCC says or anything like that. That's where the humans have always existed. 2 degrees Celsius that the IPCC says we got to keep things under, or even 1.5 degrees is catastrophic. Right now we're experiencing these things around the world at 1.1 degrees Celsius. Can you imagine what it's going to be at 1.5 degrees Celsius increase, or 2? And most likely we're headed right up to a 6 degrees Celsius increase. And then after that, all hell breaks loose, if hell hasn't broken loose by then. Because you have things called feedback loops. And those are the things that are killing us and going to wipe us out. So, as you can tell, there is no good news with this. Nothing's being done. I'm out here by myself. You have a college literally 3 blocks away from here, loaded with college students who are 18 to 22 to 23 years old, who are sitting down, going to their classes and acting like everything's fine. They're going to get out and get jobs. Nope, sorry. You're going to get a job, and then the job's going to end. Unless you get control of the situation. You got to make people do the right thing. Okay, you got to get your politicians and local people involved and working together as a community, going in the right direction. Right now, it's every man for himself, every person for himself, and it's a ridiculous situation. I don't know why kids are going to school, frankly. I mean, the smaller kids, the high school kids and everything, they are probably going to be dead by the time 15 years rolls around. So, unless things change, that's how it's going to end up. This is simple math, simple science. Doesn't require a genius, okay? So I really suggest everyone gets out, and, it's not a good situation. So I'm going to leave it go with that. I'm really frustrated at what's happening or not happening around the world. Sitting at home is a choice that you're making. Sitting at home doing nothing is a choice you're making. Sitting at home or going on vacation is a choice you're making. And that's not bad to go do things, but you also need to do the groundwork and do the hard stuff, which is getting out and making yourself uncomfortable and making other people uncomfortable in your intensity, okay? So I guarantee in 2 years, you're going to start seeing some huge changes, and by 2023, you're going to wish you had done something, and you'll start to realize that it's way too late at that point. If you want to avoid this, we need to get on this now. You can't wait for an election. You can't wait for an inauguration. You can't wait for that kind of change. These are the people that got you into the problem. These are the people that are going to take you right down the road to hell. So unless they get the lobbyists out, the oil lobbyists, and stop making politics for profit, then you're not going to have a system change. You can look at all your little candidates, Trump or the other Democrats, and go, they're going to do everything. No, they're not. They're not going to do a goddamn thing. So sorry, get on with it. You got to make them uncomfortable and hold their feet to the fire. Do you see any legislation happening? No. So I'll catch you next week, November 1st, 11 a.m. down in Washington, D.C. or here in Gettysburg.